Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Talkin Kop. We are back after a week's break. I'm Gavin. I'm delighted to be joined by Kev, by Ashley, and by Chris. And this show is about Liverpool's next 7 fixtures across the Premier League, League Cup, and Champions League. We're not going to go through them one by one. We're just not. We're going to talk about different parts of different things as we go along. So you're all very welcome. We have taken a week off, and we needed it. And yeah, we're back now, and you're going to get loads of stuff across YouTube and loads of stuff across our Patreon from here on in until the next international break, which is probably about 3 weeks away. If I'm sure someone will check and let us know. So Liverpool, the start we've gone through, we've covered every game from before it, during it, after it. We currently sit second in the league, a point behind Arsenal. We have 3 points in the Champions League from a possible 6, and we are into the EFL fourth round. Could be fourth round, yeah, I think so. Where we play Palace, but we get onto that in a little bit. So it hasn't been the best start of the season, but it hasn't been disastrous either. There's obviously mitigating circumstances there that we might go into, but that's what we're here for. So the next 7, just to let people know, it's in 4 weeks' time. Hotline says it's the next international break. Is it? Is it really?
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah,
for the love of Jesus.
Yeah, end of November.
Oh, for fuck's sake. I was messing. I thought, no, it is. There's a November one. So, the fixtures as they are. Home to Manchester United, away to Frankfurt in the Champions League, away to Brentford, home to Crystal Palace in the EFL Cup, or Carabao Cup, home to Aston Villa, home to Real Madrid, and then we finish up these 7-game stretch before that international break, away to Manchester City. Kev, I'm going to come to you first. Look, we've covered it ad nauseum now at this stage. Liverpool started the season, new players in the squad, new systems, players injured, players getting up to fitness, etc., etc., etc. And we sit where we sit. The first thing I want to go to is, usually we're like, oh, international breaks, but we probably needed this, Kev. Did we need it? And a lot of players are away on international duty, but did Arne Slot need it? Did he need it to reset and look and go, right, that's what's happened? This is where I want to be. What can I look at in this break to new ideas, new ways of doing, whatever it might be? Where are you on this, Kev, with regards to needing it and wanting
massively.
it? Yeah.
Arne Slot massively needed a break. What he tried at the start of the season, we got points on the board. You can't argue with the points on the board, but the performances have been poor. And you're trying to bed in 5-6 new signings into an established squad who's used to winning and playing a certain way, and then you try to tinker with the way they play as well. Hey,
Ashley's torn sideways. It's like she's levitating.
And
she's muted herself.
I was just chatting away. I looked up and
come back in because I have no idea what's going on.
Okay.
I'll be right back.
Okay, cool.
Ashley is in the middle of a storm in the northeast of the US at the moment, so yeah, she's just had a hair-raising experience.
I don't know if the storm turns your screen from landscape to portrait, though.
Do you remember the TV show Round the Twist? It reminds me of that.
Yeah. Go on anyway, Kev.
Look, I think we all needed it. I know we needed it. Us watching it, the players. I think going away on international duty for the vast majority of international sides. Remember, a thing that stuck with me for years was what Suarez was saying about going back to Uruguay with his mates. It was a different experience to club football. And I think a lot of the players who went away on international break probably needed that as well. You see some of the performances from some of the players that went for their national side. And Salah's got back on the goal scoring touch. Didn't play their second game, which is good. Virgil scored. Cody Gakpo did well. Picked up a couple of injuries, but by the looks of it, hopefully nothing too serious. We'll see by the weekend. But I think a reset is definitely needed. And the way he must look at the squad that he has at the minute and work out a way of how we can become hard to beat. Goals will come, chances will come. We'll score goals. I've no doubt about that. We have to get back to being hard to beat. And whatever way he manages to work that out, he's got to start with a settled side. Whatever that back four is going to be for the next, 6-7 games. Well, the next 4 league games especially. I'm not worried about the cups. But for the next 4 league games, that back four needs to be the same. keeper will be the same. Lead the back four the same, whatever way he wants to work it. Become more solid, and from that base, you can build forward. Because you can't keep conceding 1-2 goals a game every game and expect to win anything. Because we're just not going to. And I don't care what level of football you're playing at in the Premier League. If you're conceding a goal or 2 goals a game, or close to 2 goals a game, you're not winning anything. You'll get into the top 4 at best. But he wants to achieve more than that. You see players coming out in interviews talking about, yeah, we want to win everything. Not going to fucking win everything. Focus on one, concentrate on one competition, make that your priority, and build around it. Because you've got to develop this squad into the way he wants to evolve over the next couple of years. And that's going to take time and patience. But use the cup competitions for that. The Premier League has to be the focus on your core 11, 12, 13 players and work from there. Because at the minute, what we're doing so far, points on the board, what have you, performances aren't sustainable. That's just not going to fly. And I don't care how many players you're trying to bet in. You're not going to achieve anything with the way we're doing it at the minute. It's too scattergun. You've got three players who've played right back, and they've all started 4 games each for various different reasons. But at the end of the day, he doesn't know who his best right back is. And if your answer to that is Dominic Szoboszlai, why the fuck did you sign Jeremy Frimpong in the first place?
Yeah, I think when you look at the right back situation, I think Dominic Szoboszlai ends up in there because of injuries to the 2 players. But when they've come back, he still put him in there at different times. And it is. I think it's a telltale sign that that isn't working properly. Szoboszlai was good in there. I'll put him back in there just to stabilise in his own mind. Not to stabilise defensively. I just think that's worked the most this season, so put him back in there. But I agree with you going forward that Dominic Szoboszlai, when all things being equal, shouldn't be playing at right back for Liverpool. Unless it's weird circumstances like we had at the start of the season when both were injured. Like Chris, you look at this international break, and some people like the break, some people hate them. I'm not a big fan of them. I think there's too many of them. Like this is the second one. There's another one in a month's time. There's 3 of them in the first 3 months of the season. But when you look at their players, you have a lot of them are gone away on international duty. Bradley gets another yellow card because he just can't play a game without getting a yellow card, so he gets the night off against Germany. I don't think Frimpong plays. Gets any minutes against, is it Finland he beat 4-0? He doesn't get any minutes there. You look at Virgil plays well and scores. Gakpo scores, doesn't he?
Yep.
You look there, and then you go into midfield. McAllister only plays, I think I read McAllister only played 15 minutes for Argentina in their last game. There's players there that are going away. Like Isak is playing an awful lot for Sweden, so I think Isak is that helps him. Yeah, no, it helps him because he needs 90s. To this 25 and 30 isn't going to work. But as much as Chris, I don't go along with they needed a break from Liverpool. I think some of them in there, because I'd love them all to be Liverpool for the last 2 weeks training together for the 2-week break, but that's not possible. But when you look at it, it fell at a good time. Like Dylan says there, everyone down in the dumps about the current position. Every media source he's seeing in the international break will have you believe it's a disaster. But for differing reasons, whether it's fitness or getting back to fitness or a break or whatever it might be, it felt like a good time for Liverpool, especially with the last week they had before this break.
Yeah, I think so. I think you have to be careful not to throw the baby out with the bathwater. The last 3 games have been tough to take because we've been on the receiving end of 2 90-plus minute winners. They're hard. They're hard to take. We've won plenty of games doing that. Have the performance been great? No. There's been spells. There's been like half-hour spells. I think that's what's been missed in the last 2 or 3 games. I think some of the circumstances are expected. I think looking at the fixture list of what we start with and what we've got until November, I thought we'd be a little bit further off the top than we are, if I'm being brutally honest. Because I think whether you look at the positions of teams we play statistically, whatever way you want to spin it, Liverpool have a tough opening 11 fixtures, tougher than pretty much anybody else in the league, and that was just the way it falls, and that's the way the fixture list falls. But post City, actually, it's quite a nice run. It's quite a nice spread of games, which may do us some good. I'm surprised. I'm a little bit surprised how surprised people are of how indifferent we've been. Because look, Gav, you me same age. We've seen plenty of seasons where you add 7, 8 players to a squad. I think the only one I can think where they've added 7, 8 players to a squad and it's hit the ground running was probably Mourinho's 04-05 team. That's the only one I can think of where you make that many changes and it looks fairly seamless. So yeah, I think it's been a little bit indifferent. I think some of it has been a little bit blown out of proportion. Look, people clip me. I've post match. I think I said Liverpool need to get serious, and I do think that's still true. I think they need to get serious off the ball. I think on the ball Liverpool are okay. I think off the ball they've just losing that little bit of spark, that little bit of concentration, and I think I do wonder if an element of our pace there is the fear of last time we won the title. The following season was a bit of a disaster again because we lost all our centre backs and we didn't get the sum out right. And I think maybe there's an element of people just assuming the same's going to happen again. Ultimately, Liverpool have invested a lot, but I sort of feel we're going to have a bit of a rough ride again until after the City game, and I'm in my head. I always had post November is when I would expect that many changes to start to click properly. So I think moment now is about seeing it through. But on the flip side, I know what Kev's saying, these performances can't continue. And people may think this is a bit mad, but Arsenal's performances aren't as spectacular as they're made out to be when you look at who they've played. And I'll say it again, and I think we saw it last season, and I think the same could be true this season. I think the stat is only 34% of Arsenal's goals come from open play, when over 60% of your goals are set pieces. We saw the last 2 seasons of Arsenal, that isn't sustainable. They have to get better doing that. And as me and Ashley always have our weekly debate about, Liverpool have to flip. Liverpool have I think Liverpool are 65, 70% of their goals are open play. Liverpool actually need to get better at set pieces. So as much as we can all get overexcited, ultimately we're only a point off while bedding in a lot of new players. And we're sat, I believe, we're a point better off on the same fixtures last season. I think Arsenal are 4 or 5 points better off. So with a very settled side, I mean, to be fair to Arsenal, there is very little movement in that squad, which is a good thing because I think long term, I think what we've seen this summer should set Liverpool up now for the next 4 or 5 years. Where I don't see Liverpool doing big overhauls in the next 2-3 summers. I think it'd be like tweaks, 2 or 3, 1 or 2 each time. So this is the game. Look, ultimately, I always think if you're within 4 or 5 points after Christmas, happy days. You're in the title race. Get on with it. Until then, it's just about staying within that realm and not getting too high, too low when things go well or not go well. And Ashley's flipped herself over again.
Yes, Ashley's just doing something for her screen. It's just incredible what she's at. If she wants, she'll go and come back again. Don't know what she's doing. There's definitely some movement in the laptop or something there that's causing that. I get what you're saying, and you see, I don't think Liverpool have been good, right? I don't think they've been good. I think they've been good in patches of games. I think you have to give them credit for sticking at things, like the Bournemouth one, which was stupid, but they rectified it by sticking at it. Newcastle, when they go 2-0 up and they should just see the game out, and they don't, they get involved in a kind of a war, but they stick at it and they get their late winner. The Arsenal game, so tight, 2 of the top teams in the country, so tight, brilliant goal wins it. That happens. We've seen that happen so many times over the years. But then there's other things like Palace weren't good, and someone said there, game management. Manage the game, take your point and fuck off and say, listen, we are blessed to get out of there with a point. Chelsea.
If we draw in the last 2 in the league, I think everyone would be a lot calmer.
Yeah. I fully agree. But Chelsea, we go 1 down. I didn't think it was a great game, but we get 1-1. Manage the game. If you think it's going a little bit against you, manage it and get your point. And it's a bit like you said, a bit off the ball. Losing that bit of intensity, that little bit of organisation. And I agree with all those things. But when I look across everything, I take your point on Arsenal and and the set piece goals. And someone says there Arsenal aren't conceding. That's what would concern them. No, they're not conceding, but they're set up not to concede. You're actually set up not to concede with the players they put in on the pitch. And he changed that slightly with Eze and stuff like that. And hands up, fair play to him. I didn't think he'd do it, but he has. But it's still at that. When we were scoring late goals, it was like it's not sustainable, and it's probably not. But when Arsenal get a late draw against Chelsea or against City and a late win against Newcastle, it's like, oh well, this is what makes you champions or whatever it might be. And we're like, yeah, but when we done it 2 weeks ago, it wasn't sustainable. So which one is it? So I think it's narratives, isn't it? It's narratives all the time. And I think when you look across this, there's 7 league games gone. It is 7, isn't it? Yeah, it is. It's 7. And Liverpool have 15 points. Arsenal have dropped 5 points in their first 7 games. And Liverpool have dropped 6. And I don't think either of them are perfect. I think there's stuff that both of them can do, and others, if you look at City and stuff, because I think they might come on strong. But now is the point where you have to start picking up the pace. You have to. Or you have to start looking like or just stay at that pace and hope that others around you keep that pace. Because if you keep the pace you're at, are Arsenal going to do 16 points out of 21 the next 7? I don't know. But my thing is that when you look at it, I think there's bits that you can pick out of every team and you go, that's not really great. And you know what? That's okay. We're 7 league games in, and new players in our Arsenal and new players in at City. That's absolutely fine. But listen, you have to be able to stand up and take the slaps as well when you are champions and when you have invested so heavily. You have to be able to take that. But while you're taking, you have to look to improve. Actually, when we look at where Liverpool can improve, right, and I hope you stay in that format and don't
I'll do my best here.
Do a diving header across the screen as it looks like. When we look to improve, I think being hard to beat, I think is a huge point that I think both Kev and Chris have made, because when I look at this Liverpool team, I think there's so much talent in it. I think they switch off the odd time and then they get punished. But making yourself hard to beat is huge, because I agree with Kev. I think chances come, goals will come. Go and set yourself up, and a little bit what Chris said, be a bit more intense in that press. Get the players in, make sure they're organised. It's basically knowing where to be. And at times to me, actually, it looks like this team, am I supposed to be there? Am I not? And if you start tidying that up, I think Liverpool win the ball better, win the ball in better areas, look more secure, and then the players that you have at your disposal take over. That would be my big thing going into this next 7 games.
Yeah, I think for me, the press is probably the biggest thing that I'm looking for an improvement on. If I go back and I look at some still shots or some slow motion shots of our press in that Palace game, for example, or in the Galatasaray game, for example, it's so off in terms of timing with regards to specifically the forward players, specifically like Isak, Verts, Szoboszlai, whoever's playing in and around that. Ekitike, I include that as well, and Gakpo particularly. That area of the pitch is not functioning the same way that it did last season. When you compare the numbers to, let's say, a Diaz, a Jota, and a Szoboszlai in his natural position, the pressing that they were able to achieve versus the pressing that we're able to achieve right now is night and day. A lot of that has to do with familiarity. A lot of that has to do with positional awareness. Those players are all new. And I think it's actually why perhaps we saw Slot trying to bring Szoboszlai over into that portion of the pitch, because he is such a good presser of the ball. So it's just something that those players need to work on. And I think that's where it's actually where a lot of our defensive issues are stemming from. They're stemming from the front rather than from the back. Our center backs look really exposed, but they look really exposed because the press ahead of them isn't working. And that kind of ripples back through midfield as well. I think McAllister hasn't looked up to his best at all. But I also think Gravenberch has sort of been figured out a little bit. And I think that teams are really putting players on Gravenberch in a way that doesn't allow him to dictate play. So I'm curious to see what's going to happen there as well. But yeah, if if Slot can use this, it looks like most of the players are going to be back tomorrow, give or take a couple. If Slot can use this week to really clear up some tactical issues, because one thing that we didn't even mention, we were so kind of caught up in the emotion of last week, was that was 3 away games in a row. I think that's the first time all season that we've had that. They didn't even get back to the AXA in between the Galatasaray and Chelsea game in order to make any changes. So whatever was going on tactically for that whole week was off. So I'm hoping that this is sort of a reset button where Slot can really use, I guess, these next 5 or 6 days on the pitch to really rectify those things, if that makes sense.
It's a couple of people have brought up the pressing and I think Jonathan says there we don't have the athleticism to press, and Bob says both wingers are passengers off the ball. It disrupts the whole structure. And it's funny because it is something that's standing out to me. I think first of all, being consistent in what you have across your front three, I think is huge. I think Salah's being a constant. I think Ekitike / Isak, and that's fine, and Gakpo's being fairly constant. But then the odd time he's thrown in Wirtz, and I'm like, what's he doing left? But the big thing here is that they're playing with this number 10 and they're playing 2 behind, and you think that's a little bit more structured and a little more to protect everything, but it doesn't really, because the 2 become disjointed for me, way too easy. And McAllister's being horrendously off form, doesn't look fit, and I'm hoping this break is kind of giving him, I don't know what he needs. I don't know if he needs rest or he needs games, because when I'm watching him in games I'm going, he could look like he could do a rest, so I don't know where it's going with that. And the number 10 is killing us because of the wide men, and the reason being is because that number 10 used to be Dominic Szoboszlai. He would sit on the right hand side and go, yeah, go ahead, you have the ball, and as soon as you come in here we're going to kill you. And at the moment now that 10 is further up, attracted towards the ball. Salah's coming in narrower towards one of their centre backs, and they're just clipping into their full back in the way they play. And Gakpo is a little bit, I don't think Gakpo's doing that as much, but Gakpo's doing that. He's sitting an awful lot deeper when we're off the ball. Do you know what I mean? He's not high up. He's not high up on a full back. So I think in the sort of press, I'm wondering, is he going to try to do something where he says, look, Wirtz, when we're off the ball, I don't want you up high. I want you to drop back in. And I want you to be the man that has to do that a little bit more. But when we get on it then, I want you to be in the 10. It's a curious one to see. And that's why I started with Arne Slot and what he's going to do and what he's going to try to, because he has all the tools there. But again, going back to, and we haven't talked once about creating chances because we believe we can. But when you give yourself a much more stable footing in the game, where teams are going, we can't get fucking through them here. We can't get out. We can't get around. We can't get out their centre backs. We can't get beyond Gravenberch. McAllister's snapping into everything. Then they start second guessing themselves, and then you can go and attack because they start to lose their way. And I think we're encouraging teams by giving them outs, and if we shut down them outs, then we can actually go and influence games on a much bigger level. Sorry, Kev, go on.
It's one thing you could say last season. If you were lining up a side to play against Liverpool last season, the last thing you'd have your goalkeeper doing is playing short. Everything would go long, and you try to win your ball from there.
Yeah.
This season, if you're Manchester United at the weekend, you want to attract Liverpool onto the ball. You want to play out from the back and play through the thirds quickly. And the reason being is because the press isn't organised for a reason, because you look at the side who was there for what Arne Slot inherited and what he developed last season. Everyone knew the triggers. Everyone knew how to press because that was the gospel according to Jurgen. He didn't have to tweak that. He just let that go. In fact, the one thing Arne probably did do was draw one player off him. Jurgen used to always press with 5 players. And then the 2 full-backs would press on as well. So it would be 7. And he'd trust that no matter what happens, you're not coming through those 7. If you do, you're going to have to go along and we back our centre-backs to mop it up. At the minute, we're pressing with 4. And the 4 don't know each other's triggers. And it's like one goes, it should be one goes, everyone goes. But it's not. It's really disjointed. And it's probably one of the hardest things to bed down in any side is that part of it. And the thing is, if you don't get it right, you do open yourself up. And if you're a side playing in this league at the minute, you're used to, I mean, you're playing on carpets. You're used to being able to pass the ball through the thirds, especially if you're a counter-attacking side, because that's your bread and butter, is to play through a high press. And we're just making it really easy. What I said earlier on about, like Chris was saying there, the last 3 games that we've lost, 2 late winners and a dodgy penalty. That aside, we were giving up plenty of chances. We were giving up good quality chances in these games, and that's something that has to stop. It's not so much the volume of chances you're giving up; it's the quality of them. And
I
Palace
would
should have
also,
been out. Palace should have been out of sight at halftime, and
but I would also argue in those last 3 games, the quality of chances we're missing are also causing us problems, and I think putting pressure on
oh
ourselves as
yeah,
well.
yeah, I know,
Both boxes aren't performing.
but
If you know what I mean.
but what I mean is, if you're second guessing yourself, that's causing you to give up chances. And you see the chances the sides are missing. That's only going to create more instability. You have to set up in a way not to get beat. What's Ireland Portugal the other night, right?
But you've just said something there. You've just said something there, and it's the perfect 2 words: second guessing.
Yeah,
And you either go and you press, or you don't, because the worst
Yeah.
thing you can do is half do it, right? Because
Shut up with the grabbing birds.
if you half press a team, right, it means that you're leaving. The whole idea of a press is to condense a football game into a small box. That's the whole idea, and make it mad, and make it a bit mental, and you win the ball, and then you have the ability to play really fast football in tight areas. That's what the press is about, right? It's about going and making. When we go, we fucking go, right? And the 2 lads, Gravenberch and McAllister, they're part of it, by the way. And your fullbacks, like you said, are part of it. So you're literally going to the 2 centre halves. We're all going here, okay? And if anything happens to come over the top, we're trusting you to deal with it. The problem with Liverpool is, at the moment, is they're not either going or they're not staying, right? Okay? They're going halfway in. And what they're doing is, when they go halfway in, is that one player decides, I'm not going, or one player kind of hovers in a space, more or less hoping that we will win the ball. But by you hovering there, we're not going to win it, because there's room around you. And it's all about condensing space. And when you hover in an area, there's loads of space around you. That's trouble. It's absolute trouble. Yeah. And I think Liverpool will have to either decide, right, I don't know, pick your team for the weekend. But let me tell you, Salah, Gakpo, Isak starts, Isak, Wirtz, right? And the 2 boys in midfield behind them. You go as a fucking unit, and you make sure you go. But if you're not going to go, give them the ball. Let them have it. And let them come into midfield then, and change your approach in what it's going to be. Because, as I said already, we haven't got on to Liverpool going forward. A little bit Chris has a chance we're missing. But we're missing chances, in my opinion, because we're in a kind of an area at the minute where, if we're doing everything right, I think we take a lot of them chances. Whereas we're getting chances now, we're going to go, we better fucking score here because we're a bit ropey going the other way. And it happens to loads of teams. That's where I think we are. But look, let's get into these competitions. I'm gonna leave the league to last. The Champions League, Ashley, I'll come to you first on it. We go away to Frankfurt, and we have Real Madrid at home. They're the 2 Champions League games in this 7-game stretch. There's 8 games in this league stage, and you possibly start looking after 4 or 5, and you go, right, where are we? What do we need to do to get into this top 24? So these 2 games, I'm not saying they're not big, but you'd like to put a couple of points on the board here. 1, to just keep yourself in a nice, comfortable position near the back end of it. And 2, this feels like a time where you mightn't be absolutely perfect, actually, across all competitions. But you want to build some momentum for that period where Chris is talking about, where you get back in the middle of November after this next, or the end of November, probably at this stage, after the next international break, and you're doing really well in things, and you feed off of momentum then. They're 2 tough games though. Frankfurt away won't be easy, and Real Madrid is Real Madrid. You know what's coming with them.
Yeah, I mean, Frankfurt is a bit of a weird one because they absolutely demolished Galatasaray.
Yeah.
But then I think they didn't do quite so well against Atletico. So sort of the reverse of what we were dealing with. So I'm not 100% sure where they're at in terms of, difficulty rating. I'm not sure where they are in the German league. I don't know if you guys know off the top of your head, or if someone in the chat could throw in where they are in the German in the
They're
Bundesliga.
seventh.
That'd be great. Okay.
They're seventh.
I mean, they're probably going to be in and around sort of your standard Premier League competition level. I don't think it's going to be an easy game at all. It'll be a return for Ekitike, which will be nice for him. But that's the one that I'm saying, you've absolutely got to get points on the board for that one. Real Madrid, I mean, that was up there with one of our most difficult games on paper last year, but that was also the week that really we stamped our authority on the season. So when I look at that game, I think very much the same about this season, because you also have the City game sort of back to back with it, where that could set the whole tone. Very, very quickly, our doom and gloom mentality can flip-flop, and we can go back into our sunny mentality if we see some performances here. It's at home, which is helpful. I'm glad that we're not going away to Real Madrid, because I just think that it's always a difficult game when you go away there, no matter who they have on the pitch. But yeah, I would focus on definitely getting the 3 points at Frankfurt, and then if you want to make a statement, that week with City and Madrid is the one to do it. And I'm hoping that we can gain a little bit. Exactly. It's exactly the same. And I'm hoping that, we have enough of a sort of running start where we can set things right early, have a few games to really create our system, and then we go into those 2 matches with Madrid and City and hopefully can kind of put our stamp on things.
Chris, it's funny because when Ashley's talking there about Madrid and City, I think we host Madrid and go to City last year back to back, don't we? Oh no, we don't. We host both of them within a couple of days. And part of me would love now if we were coming back now and we could have this City/Madrid thing a little bit earlier in this process, because I think that's what focuses Liverpool. I think that's where we focus and we go, right, what are we trying to do? We have to do it perfect against these teams. There's no leeway here. We go at it. But, if you go and you take 4 points from them 2 games, you turn around and you say to yourself, fine, that's 7 points from 12 and there's whatever, fucking 4 games left. We'd be absolutely fine to get into this top 8 or whatever it might be. But again, like I was saying earlier, and you were talking about middle of November, that's where you want to see things, late November, that's where you want to see things really motoring. These are games that you want to win, but they're big for momentum. Forget statements and all that. They're just big for momentum and get this team getting their eye in again.
Yeah, I mean, look, this run of 7 games needs to focus the mind, because pretty much the week we've just had with Palace, Galatasaray, Chelsea, this run of 7 games is that again. So none of these are gimmies. None of these are straightforward games. These are all teams that can hurt you. These are all teams that have got ways of hurting us at the moment and play to our Achilles heels. So this should focus the mind. I'm trying to work out having United straight after international break. Some ways could be a good thing because it really does focus the mind. It's not. It's it's a Northwest derby. We don't like each other, but also the first week after international break is always a little bit of a damp squid. It's never quite as ferocious as they normally are, which might play to Liverpool's advantage a little bit. But yeah, listen, for me, I think they have to win. The focus should be they have to win the next 2. Have to beat Man United at home to gain 2 points on last season, and I think you have to beat Frankfurt to get the monkey off your back of those 2 losses. I think that's got to be Liverpool's aim: is win the next 2 to get the monkey off your back for the league and Champions League, and then see where it lies. Mm-hmm. I think if you don't win either of them, I think you're already putting yourself under immense pressure for the rest of it.
Mm. Kev, it's just sticking to the Champions League. It's if you switch them around and says, well, give us Real Madrid at home and then Frankfurt away, or if you switch it again and say, give us Frankfurt at home and Real Madrid away, you want to get home games in, you want to get wins in, but Liverpool wants to get to a level, and I think Frankfurt's going to be forget the Real Madrid one for a minute. I think the Frankfurt one is going to be a big tell on where we are. I really do. We've gone away in Europe to Galatasaray, so they weren't really, really good. They were very open for me. We didn't do enough there. We're going to play away to Frankfurt now, who like to play attacking football. They've had an okay start to the season. You know, they started off well, and then they've kind of win loss. They get beaten in the Champions League heavy, don't they? And then they get beaten at home by Bayern Munich before the international break. I think they get beaten 3-0 by them. So they'll have something to prove. But this one for me feels like Liverpool have to show a level where we've just gone and beat them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the Real Madrid will take care of itself.
Look, Frankfurt are mad as a box of frogs. All right. I'll give you their results for the last 5, okay? 5-1 against Galatasaray. Lost 4-3 to Union Berlin. Won against Borussia Mönchengladbach 6-4. Lost to Atletico 5-1.
Well, let go. Yeah.
And then lost to Bayern Munich 3-0.
Yeah.
The one constant in all of those games is they play 4-3-3. And they're not going to be any different at home against us. They're going to go for it. They're going to try their level best to get at us in every which way they can. And that atmosphere is rowdy. It's going to be it's not going to be as bad as Galatasaray, but it's going to be one where if you're not on it, these will pull your pants down and spank you. You know, they will give you a right hiding if you let them. If you let them play football, they'll give you a pasting. So the mentality for us for the next 2 games has to be absolutely bang on. There's no excuses against Manchester United at the weekend because for all their results over the last few games and the fact they're going to come into this a little bit confident, they're fucking shite. They're absolutely fucking terrible. And there's no excuse not to go and beat them. You're playing Luke Shaw in the middle as a left centre back in the back 3 with 2 midfielders who can't run. There's absolutely 0 places to hide. So that's a must win. And the confidence you can take from that can bounce you into the next one. And the confidence you take from winning that bounces you into the next one. And that's the way we're going to have to be. Confidence is flat for me because I don't think the players are confident in themselves at the minute. And they're not sure on what they're doing. I think that's half the reason why we're playing so slow and so pedestrian at times, is that we recycle everything around the back, keep it safe, keep it simple. But then when we try to go, we're not going in the right direction. And we're making it so hard for ourselves that when we get to the final third, we're rushing it. And we're not playing football in the right areas. Once we get that right, and it seems plenty of people are saying in the chat, it'll click. It will click. Of course it's going to click because they're good players. There's too many good players in the squad for it not to click. The problem is the longer you leave it, the harder you make it for yourself. Because
you don't want to give yourself too big a gap to chase, do you? That's
exactly. You genuinely want to be finishing in the top 1 to 8 in the Champions League groups because you don't want to be playing a playoff in January on top of everything else. So from that point of view, it's important to get this run started. But the other side of it is, I look at Man City and I look at Erling Haaland, and as long as he's fit and healthy, they're a problem. You know what I mean? Whatever issues they have going one way, he's scoring goals for fun, and he's looking back to near where he was when he first came into the league. And if he stays fit and healthy, we're going to have to be at our best to be able to match pace with what they're going to bring because they're not going to slow down. They had a blip last season. They were poor last season. I don't expect them to be poor 2 seasons on the bounce. And they're ahead of us in their rebuild in the fact that they did most of their spending last January. So they're 6-7 months into where they are now.
Yeah.
So
I think
their dominance is showing as well on the pitch.
Yeah, I think it is, but again, I'm looking at City and I'm looking at City have played Arsenal. They've got beaten at home by Spurs. They've got beaten away at Brighton. I can't remember all the other games they've played, but they win 1-0 at Brentford, I think. But my thing on them is that I look at them and they're further ahead because they made signings in January and stuff like that. But just going back into the whole progress of stuff, I'm looking at City and I'm going, he's scoring goals and he's doing this, but City are sitting on 13 points.
13 points. They're actually 4 points worse off than they were this time last year.
Yeah, and then they hit a massive roadblock. So that's what I'm saying. It's as Liverpool fans, we do. It's in a microcosm where we go, what the fuck is going on? But when if you actually sat down and took your Liverpool hat off and watched all of Arsenal's games or all of City's games or Spurs or whoever's up there, you kind of go, well, they were poor there and they were poor there and just, you could do this. Everyone can improve.
But the
Everyone
mad
can
thing is,
improve.
City are 6 points better off in the same fixtures, though.
Yeah,
So they are.
I think Jonathan's right in what he says there. Whatever about their problem, I think signing Donnarumma is he's a good signing. He's been really good for them. He's been really good for them.
But is he like Donnarumma was a great signing, right? But in terms of, I don't think James Trafford is good enough to be Man City's goalkeeper, right? That's just my opinion. I don't think he's dominant enough. I don't think he doesn't make enough decisions for me. And when he does, they're a bit mad. Particularly the one where he tried to clean out the guy off was a Spurs when he just came out and just handballed it and Andy fell in the face. But Donnarumma was a good signing, but and covers some of their defensive issues. But there's only so much covering you can do. And then you go, lads are getting through you way too much. Donnarumma can't keep doing this every week. So there's still an issue there for City, and it's for me. It's I don't think I'll say I don't think Liverpool have been impressive at all. To be fair, bare patches. But I'm still looking, going, we're all talking this up and that we're still in there, the sort of way, and we know there's loads of improvement to come. But
I think a key for us, if we can get Isaac firing and get him scoring, where sides are actually looking at it and they're fucking terrified of him, and they're afraid to leave him alone. They don't leave space in behind. Just having that threat alone allows you to move up the pitch faster because they're not going to press you. But the fact that they're looking at Wirtz and they're saying, yeah, okay, we don't really rate him.
I think they're looking at Wirtz and thinking Liverpool aren't being brave enough to give him the ball.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I think it is.
We don't know how to play with him.
I think if you start popping it into Wirtz, not on a constant where it just has to be to him, but I think if you start manoeuvring teams around a little bit to be the next pass to Wirtz, and I keep saying I know I do, but if Liverpool decide, right, pop it into him, and we'll deal with it if he doesn't fucking keep it, or get it to this player and then get it to Wirtz, I think teams will start to go, fuck, these are moving it around now. They're actually finding space for him. They're either getting it to him or they're finding space in order to get it to him. But I have no worries on Wirtz. I think, and there's other people in that team that it will come. But just on I want to go to the League Cup, and Chris, I'll come to you first on it, because we played the League Cup against Southampton. We were all delighted with, he's going to play, and Leone is a terrible, unfortunate injury and stuff, but we're all kind of going, this is great, Gomez will get a game, and Marmadashvili will get a game. Of course, he's going to get more because Alisson's injured, and, what we do at left back, and, such and such can play right back, and get lads into midfield, and fellas fit up front, and it was all great, and then it was terrible. Let's be honest, right? Bar a couple of players on that night, I thought we were terrible against Southampton. We didn't look after the ball. We didn't press. It was just so disjointed. It's Crystal Palace in the League Cup, and we always make the argument at this time of year that, you want to go through in the League Cup because it keeps players, interested, and it gets them games and stuff like that. But I'm kind of looking at it going, well, if that's them getting games, is there much value in it? Where will this lie, Chris? Will it depend on the results around it? Or if Liverpool are on a really good run, they'll just go, listen, get it, whoever, and just throw them out and see what happens. Or if Liverpool are struggling, they could go, we need to put a stronger team in here. We need to get someone for it. And will it all depend around the fixtures that are around that for you?
I think he already knows his League Cup side, and I don't think it'll differ. I think he's going to go the 6 fixtures where I've got one plan, and then the League Cup is what it is. He'd like to go through, but I think if he has to if he ends up having to sacrifice one, that's the one he'll sacrifice. Or sacrifice. He'll take more risks in it. Where that might be the game where you start, Neone and Rio get games. Keys will get a start. Where I don't expect any of them 3 to get a start in the other 6 games because they don't. That's where I'm thinking. I said he might take risks. Like, don't be surprised if it's Gomez and Endo at centre back. I just kind of feel that's what it'll do. So I kind of feel the League Cup, it is what it is. And I think if roles reversed, and this was the Arsenal podcast, I think Arteta will do exactly the same. I think he will concentrate on the six big games, and the League Cup is literally who needs minutes, who needs a bit of freshness, and who needs a bit of a confidence build. You'd like to think by then Isak's in a bit. He's got a couple of goals under his belt, and then maybe Isak and Ekitike are more like bench options rather than starting for minutes. Because I get Isak does need to get some minutes to get his pre-season, but he's got to start firing soon. Because the point of having both of them is for these sort of week where you go, right, we've got Real Madrid and we've got City. So what we're going to do is we're going to start Isak against Real Madrid and we're going to start Ekitike against Man City. The level doesn't really drop, which is what the best title-winning sides used to do.
The best squads,
I still go back to, I still think the best United squad was the 08-09 one, which was it's Berbatov, Ronaldo, and if they don't work, it's Rooney and Tevez. And you just went, for fuck's sake, what's the point? And that's kind of how you thought it was all going off. You want to get Isak to that backup firing to the level he was at Newcastle, where whether it's Isak or it's Ekitike off the bench, you just see the opposition going, oh, for fuck's sake. Yeah. And I actually think that's what we missed against Palace, is bringing Ekitike off for the last 15 minutes. Because I just think Palace would have been like, oh, fuck off, there's another lad who just runs at you. I could do without that. And I think that's what
you could do with a big 9 coming on, just standing beside you and trying to head the ball, couldn't you? But not this fella, it's just going to run around. But listen, when he starts taking his top off and forgetting he's on the yellow card, it's his own fault.
Well, it's his own fault, yeah. But do you know what I mean? It's just it's building that fear factor. Whereas, I mean, City, I would say their backup number 9. I don't actually know who their backup number 9 is, but to be honest, if you've got Haaland, you don't really need one.
Marmoush.
Well, until he gets injured during the season.
Marmoush, yeah, but Marmoush is normally he's been playing wider. But do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
that sort of thing. You kind of want that fear factor of, oh, not him. I mean, to be fair to Arsenal, I think that's where I can understand where some Arsenal fans get frustrated with the manager is they've actually got a lot of attacking depth options, and I think he's been too reluctant to use them. And I think that's why, in the end, I think Arsenal blew it against City. They were so conservative against City and against Liverpool that you looked at them and went, Joe, if you'd been a bit braver, you really could have set a marker down.
You see, people think bravery is like putting another striker on the pitch. It's not. It's putting, in midfield, an
not 3 DMs.
Put an Eze in there, and he'll work for you, but he will do something out of the ordinary that one of the other two won't do. The other two will do great jobs for you in different things, but this guy will do something out of the ordinary. But we leave Arsenal for a minute because let them do what they're doing. Ashley, Bob says Palace will rotate too with regards to the League Cup. They are in Europe. Jonathan says bin it off immediately. More training ground time plus that 2-legged semi in January is a great opportunity to rest before.
I never like the bin it off argument.
The run-in. Oshin says we've given it enough respect the last few seasons. The League Cup can afford going out early. Where are you on this? And it's a good point on the Palace one because we forget Palace are in Europe as well.
I think, honestly, at some point, Slot's hands are going to be tied because the one thing that we haven't touched on in this podcast with regards to the next couple of games is the injuries that are starting to mount up for our team. And whether we like it or not, there's going to have to be some adjustments. And especially in that League Cup game, there's players that would probably normally get a lot of time there, like a Gomez that, I don't know, maybe need to be bubble wrapped a little bit if you have situations with Ibu's quad still giving him trouble, or if Gravenberch's hamstring niggle that isn't really an issue, but was a niggle at the end of the last, or at the halftime of the Netherlands game. If those things start popping up, I mean, we've got a lot of things going on in our defensive area that, make that quite thin. Endo is out injured. We're down to kind of Virgil, Gomez, and maybe Robertson at center back. So, as much as I'd like to play quite strong in these, I don't think it's about binning it off. I think Slot's going to play, whatever players he has kind of left that are not in the red zone, to be honest. And I think that's it. I don't think there's going to be anything more than that. I think he wants to get through competitions. He's going to try to rotate proactively because he is trying to protect his players. But if there are, starting 11 players that are in really good shape, I don't think he's going to hesitate throwing them in there for that kind of a game. I think it's just about putting a starting 11 together that really is about fitness more than anything else. I think he's going to try to protect those players. And, I'm starting to get really kind of twitchy about defensive kind of backups and what might happen. I'm actually starting to look toward that January window because I think that we're going to need help
Yeah,
there.
but we've probably about 4 international breaks between now and then. So
I know, but I'm just saying it out loud. I mean,
yeah,
I'm sure there are other people that are feeling it as
yeah.
well.
I think when the last League Cup
We've
game,
still got Reece Williams. We're okay.
oh Reece, well, someone does say the Reece Williams redemption arc is inbound, says Oisin.
That's actually been mooted though.
Oh please, can we just
God,
mute
no.
it rather than mute it?
Well, that
please?
too. I'm just saying that there have been quotes that have come out that have said it's very, very unlikely that you'll see him in any sort of competitive match. They'd actually you'd probably be more likely to see Roberts in there than Reece Williams.
I think they're extremely unfortunate in the League Cup because Leone has a good game, actually. I think he has a really good game. And you say to yourself, right, we leave our two centre-backs out, we bring in Gomez and Leone, they both get through the game, brilliant. And then we can look and say to ourselves, right, great, if anything happens to Kanate, for argument's sake, these two have played really well. It's great confidence for such a young player in Leone, barring that injury, of course. But Gomez as well got through the game. And now you're looking, like you said, and you're saying to yourself, well, can I play fucking Gomez and somebody else? Because now, if anything happens, Kanate, I've put Gomez in, but now Gomez is in, and now I am starting to look along the Endo and Gravenberch stuff. Now, we have Mark Wahey, etc., etc., etc. I think we would have signed Mark Wahey, and we would have said to ourselves, Leone is going to be peripheral in the squad this season, and that would have been your back four, or Gomez peripheral, I'm not too sure. But now you are at that period, and look, people will throw at you, we should have signed Guay, we should have made sure it happened 5 centre-halves. There's not many that float around with 5 centre-halves. There just isn't. You know what I mean? They'll have 4 main ones, and they'll have...
Unless you're Arsenal.
Yeah. But the thing is, now, I agree with you. I think, as much as it'll be dictated by results elsewhere and kind of what do we need out of this league, or do we need a little bit of a jump start, I think you're probably right. I think he probably gets to it and says to himself, right, is Kanate okay by now? Is Gomez right? Gomez is the next fella off the rank, as Keith would say, and I think he'll be hands tied. I actually agree with you, but we'll see what happens when we come to that. And I'm hoping the Kanate stuff's a bit mad. He goes away with France, and I don't think he plays, and then he gets sent back, and I'm like, what the fuck did he go for? Why didn't we just say he's not?
Well, he was injured in the first place. He was injured before he left. He got injured in that. But
these FAs don't. These FAs insist on you going over and getting checked by their medical team and stuff like that. But I would have thought Liverpool and France would have had a good enough, relationship for them to say, listen, lads, there's no point in going over. Here's all the results. But he does anyway. But look, it does no harm to him physically. It's not like he travel all around the world. And he comes back. So hopefully, fingers crossed, he's okay. People asked about Gravenberch. He went off. I think it was a tactical team when he went off.
No, he went off.
No, he went off. Yeah, Koeman
but he went off at half
and...
time. But I did read somewhere that it was nearly more or less agreed that he would come off at half time.
No,
Koeman came out afterwards.
Oh, did he? Okay, I read it wrong.
He had hamstring tightness.
Okay, no big deal.
And Gravenberch came out post-match and said that he was feeling okay, that there wasn't... I don't think there was no sort of tear or anything. Yeah. But it was definitely precautionary, and they're going to have to look at it when he gets home.
I read it wrong. I actually thought it was a pre-planned thing where he'd play a half a game and then they were 3-0 up and he'd go. Tie hamstring, they'll work on that. Hopefully everything's okay. Yeah. Kev, we're flying through the time here. So we've talked about all the ifs, buts and maybes. So I'm going to be around the league. I've left it to last because I knew we'd cover where we want to be, what we want to do, blah, 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 blah. But the league is your bread and butter. Home to Manchester United, home to Aston Villa, away to Brentford, away to Man City. We talk about momentum. We talk about, I hate that statement, sure. But, there's big games in there, City and United, they bookend both ends of this. What are you happy with coming out with those 4 league games? What do you want out of them?
Jake, I want to... You hope to come out of there with a minimum of 10 points.
Okay.
If you come out of there with 10
points, that's doable.
Yeah, 3 wins and a draw.
Yeah,
you take that. You take that all day long. I think you have to be beating Man United. You just fucking have to. Brentford are good, but they're not great. You should be beating them. Villa can be anything. You don't know what they're going to get, but I fancy us to beat them as well. It's City. It's going to be. By what kind of physical state are we in? and they're in by the time we get there? What's our confidence levels going to be like? And you
That
hope
might be a story of two strikers.
yeah, you're hoping you're bouncing into that game, and you have arguably the two best number 9s in world football, along with Harry Kane, and you're sat there like that's going to be the build up for this. If anything, it'll take a lot of pressure off Mo Salah that he can just go out and almost slip under the radar, because we need him to start picking up as well, start being a leader on the pitch as well as off it, and yeah, you have to be trying to get at least 10 points out of this, because I think if you take 10 points out of this run, the confidence that brings in itself is fucking huge. But
Yeah.
it's far from a done deal. It really fucking is, because if we don't sort ourselves out, we could get embarrassed, and you could be pulling your hair out, screaming for another international break. Another reset. I just hope to fuck the players that we know how good they are, that we start to see the evidence of it. I watched Florian Wirtz tonight for Germany, and he started on the right, ended up on the left after about 10 minutes. His passing was ridiculous. The pace that he hits a pass at and the accuracy that he hits a pass at, he's gonna, when he gets that link up play right with whoever's playing in front of him, he's gonna be a real fucking handful for sides. It's just, you need to start seeing it more. I mean, Northern Ireland tonight were really fucking defensively compact in the first half. 5-4-1, stayed in shape, but he was just everywhere. He was all over the pitch and a right handful. So I just want to see more from him, because it's in there. You've seen glimpses of it. You've seen patches of it in games so far. But it's all about partnerships and combinations, building that confidence in each other and go from there. But Ashley's right. There's going to be no room to play and to practice this. You're almost going to have to be talking amongst yourselves, working it out between the players and the manager, and then go on the pitch and practice. You're almost going to be practicing in games and hope to fuck that we sit tight at the back.
Yeah. So 10 out of 12 for Kev. Chris,
Yeah.
what are you expecting? What do you think? You can go with it any way you want.
Well, we got 10 out of 12 from those fixtures last year, and I don't think you want to get more than a 4-point gap away from Arsenal. So I think the squad's capable of getting 10 out of 12, but there has got to be some upturn in form, because if we play the way we have been playing recently, you ain't beating City playing like that. So I'm expecting Liverpool to go for 10 out of 12. 12 out of 12 would be ideal, but they should be aiming for minimum 10.
Yeah. Tommy C says, if we lose to United, I'm done. Oh yeah, Tommy. Fair play to you. Ashley, what do you think?
Yeah, I think the guys are pretty spot on here. I just want to see some momentum back in the team, and not the negative kind of momentum. Things can swing pretty quickly. I'm looking at Arsenal's fixtures. They've got Fulham, then they've got a tough game against Atletico Madrid. Then they have Palace, which, as we saw, is a really hard place to go. They have Brighton in the Cup, and then they go away to Burnley. So that's probably the easiest of their run. But that's not an easy run for Arsenal there. So, in the space of one weekend, you could flip-flop and be right back on top of the table, and everything could look jolly. So, again, I think it's just about getting the mood music to change. The mood music around Liverpool, and I'm sure it's probably the same in the squad, feels very kind of dark right now. And I think especially for a squad that is probably a little bit emotionally fragile in general, I think that momentum and that kind of thing, that plays a big role in the way that they show up every single day. So if you can really change that mood music just a little bit, I actually think that's going to have a huge effect on our team. Because I think that, they need to feel sort of like the wind behind their sails a little bit. Because it's definitely felt like we've had the opposite of the rub of the green as of recently, and that can be really demoralizing. And I'd like to kind of, see us get back on track.
3 10s out of 12.
I'd be okay with 9, to be honest, because I think that that's probably the most that would be realistic for this team at this moment in time. I definitely think that we need to get some wins back.
I think the momentum is huge. I think you know your game. You have to go and win it, and if you go and win it, then you bounce. You know, you bounce into Frankfurt, you bounce into Brentford, and then you get on a roll, and then anything can happen. I think there's I don't frailties. Yeah, I think there's frailties in certain parts of the way Liverpool play. I think there's frailties in others as well. I think they get 8 out of 12. I'm not gonna lie. I genuinely do. I think 8 out of 12 is probably where we are at the moment. Now, having said that, if we do get a momentum, that can go up. But as of now, going on the evidence of what we've seen, coming off the back of an international break, I think Liverpool probably end up with about 8 points out of 12, which would, you know, I don't know where that leaves you. It'd probably leave you. If Arsenal lose a game, it leaves you, 2 points behind them, doesn't it? Rather than 1. And then it all depends on where City will be. But I think, you know, Liverpool could go and do 12. You know what I mean? They absolutely could. But just going off where we are at the moment, where players are at the moment, the system, the games we have, the running, the way they're set out and stuff like that, I think Liverpool probably do 8 out of 12. And that's okay. You know, again, you stay in touch and distance, and that brings you right through to the next international break. And you've got a Real Madrid out of the way, you've got a Man City out of the way, you've got another couple of tough games out of the way, and then you see where you are from there.
I think we've got like a favorable run too over that December kind of holiday period. We've got Sunderland, Leeds, we have Brighton, Spurs, Wolves, and Leeds again. So in terms of difficulty, it does seem like it kind of slopes into the more it goes into the more favorable section. Yeah.
Now, don't get me wrong. I'd love Liverpool to win. You know, take 12 from 12, and you know, going into an international break, making a 12 out of 12 or a win at City, and you go, right, great. You know, international break, right, let's get back, and everyone going over the whole international break going, Jesus, Liverpool are flying. But that's where I think we are at the moment, and I think that's realistic as to where we are now. That's about it. We're positive enough. We had a good chat there around all things Liverpool. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed it after a week off. Just to let you know, if you want to join our Patreon, a link is in the description. There's loads of people joining there, and they are enjoying it. We did take a week off. We done one show, which was on Patreon. And from here on in now, again, we will have Patreon, YouTube. That's how we work. But yeah, if you want to join, give it a go for a month. Why not? The link is in the description. And also NordVPN sponsor this show, and the link is in the description for our special offer there. And you can, you know, get all your favourite streaming things and all your sports and different countries. You know how it works. You can be secure on the internet. You can do all that, and of course you can cover it on all your devices throughout your family, because it covers all 10 devices. Covers 10 devices. Sorry. With one subscription, and there's huge reductions on them. So if you're in the market for a VPN, check out NordVPN. With regards to the rest of the week, we're doing a show on Patreon tomorrow where the international break, what absolutely does your head in during the international break. I have a list, lads. I'm not messing. I have a fucking list.
It's got to be multiple pages at this point.
Oh, it's Jesus, right? But that's what we're going to do on Patreon tomorrow, to have a bit of crack to start off the week. We will be previewing Manchester United, of course, and we will be doing reaction to United and all the sorts of stuff going on at the weekend. But as the week goes on, you'll see us popping up on our Patreon and on our YouTube and getting going again. Red Steve says, Gav, have you heard from Carrick on Shannon? Is Shawnee settling in? Well, Shawnee hasn't left the country yet. He hasn't left the country yet. He's due to leave the country, and I think about a week or so, so he's getting all the last few bits sorted. But he's absolutely fine, by the way. Yeah, he's grand. So when he leaves, I'll let you know. How does that sound? That has been it. Ashley's just flip-flopped left and right here throughout the whole thing. She doesn't know what's going on. She's having an absolute breakdown. Chris.
Sorry, guys.
It's okay. Well-behaved dogs from Ashley tonight, which makes a nice change. Chris, I wanted them to bark. I absolutely wanted them to bark, but they didn't tonight. They've let me down. Chris, thanks a million. Kev, thanks a million. Thanks a million to everyone in the chat. Like, subscribe, comment, all that messing, and we'll talk to you very soon. Over and out.